Substituting for Carol Simpson, here's Barry Seraphin.
Good evening. There were more anti-abortion protests in Wichita, Kansas today, and more arrests. And there were mixed signals today from President Bush. The president, whose administration has appeared to side with the demonstrators, scolded them for some of their tactics. But at the same time, he rejected legislation that would permit Washington, D.C. to pay for abortions. We have two reports, beginning with ABC's Kyle Gibson in Kennebunkport, Maine.
He made it. Oh, shoot!
It may look like it's all play here in Maine, but the duties of the office follow the president wherever he goes. He went right from the golf course to veto the appropriations bill for the nation's capital. In a statement, he explained the bill allows funding for abortions on demand, and that, he said, is a tragedy in America. Except when the life of the mother is endangered, he called for the nation to protect the unborn. Washington's mayor said she was disappointed, but not surprised.
They knew that that was not something we were happy about. They knew there was a real point of departure, not just even on the issue of choice, but also on the issue of it ought to be a local decision.
But oddly enough, the president seemed less concerned about the opposition today than about the protesters on his side of the abortion issue who break the law.
I don't think it helps the cause, whether the cause is anti-abortion, whether it's pro-abortion, whether it's AIDS, whatever it is. And so what I'm saying is that the American people get turned off by the excesses, the denial of the rights of others, for example. And people that just come and try to get themselves on the news, for example, and have some protest, that's fine. But when you hurt somebody else's rights, that's what I disapprove of.
That's the third time this week the president has asked demonstrators to avoid what he calls just plain rudeness. He says that goes for anyone protesting anything, anywhere, from Kansas to Kennebunkport. Kyle Gibson, ABC News in Kennebunkport.
Jesus. This is Steve Shepard. The president's words had no apparent effect on anti-abortion protests in Wichita. Authorities there made more than 100 arrests today as members of Operation Rescue again attempted to block the entrance to a local abortion clinic. Mr. Bush's criticism did, however, prompt Operation Rescue founder Randall Terry to book an afternoon flight from Wichita to Kennebunkport.
The reason we're flying out there is to try and meet with the president and to clarify our position, our goals, to make sure he understands that we are completely nonviolent and we simply want to save children.
Elsewhere today, anti-abortion organizers in California promised that thousands of demonstrators would assemble at more than 100 abortion clinics statewide. There were some demonstrations, but a random check showed many California clinics had little or no protest activity. In Fargo, North Dakota, 500 demonstrators gathered to peacefully picket that state's only abortion clinic. Abortion remains a divisive and extremely sensitive issue throughout the country. And as President Bush showed this week, when he drew fire from both pro- and anti-abortion forces, it's an issue that politicians still find difficult to handle. Steve Shepard, ABC News, Washington.
A man armed with an automatic rifle and a machete stood up in a restaurant in a shopping mall outside of Sydney, Australia today, and silently and calmly began killing those around him. 6 people were murdered, at least 8 were wounded before the assailant killed himself. Details from Dennis Trout.
Witnesses said the assailant said nothing about why he started the killing spree.
I saw the man running around, just shooting at anyone he can see.
One victim was a 15-year-old girl, hacked to death with a machete. As the wounded were rushed to nearby hospitals, police found the killer on the roof of the shopping mall.
We've just had a report that this gentleman has just shot himself, Flemington 450. If you could still approach with caution, thanks.
The mall had been crowded with shoppers who scattered when the massacre began. Shocked survivors searched through it for friends and relatives left behind in the chaos, hoping they had not become victims. Police did not release the killer's name, but said he was a local man with no criminal history. Dennis Trout, ABC News.
The 2 top officers at the huge bond trading company Salomon Brothers are expected to resign tomorrow at a special meeting of the firm's board. Chairman John Goodfriend and company president Thomas Strauss have admitted that they knew last spring that their firm bought more government bonds than allowed by law, but did nothing about it. Investor Warren Buffett has agreed to run the company, at least temporarily. Coming up, the battle in Florida's Crystal River, pitting man against seaweed. And later in this broadcast, sudden celebrity for golf phenomenon John Daly, and a new threat to wildlife on Alaska's Kodiak Island.